Now for our next answer, we scroll down the list of questions and we arrive at this one from Sota5993. Is AGI possible with our current hardware, assuming a reasonable training time like less than 1 year and less than $1 billion investment? The short answer is no. Now for a longer answer, I will explain a few things. But before that, let me also point out, as I have in other answers, that AGI is given too much importance within the field of AI because it presumes that an AGI type of program is needed to achieve a technological singularity, which I don't think that is necessarily a mandatory condition of a technological singularity. It also presumes that humanity is the most exemplary type of intelligence. Now, I don't know why someone would think that given what we see about the intelligence level of most humans these days, but humans are not the paragon of the most efficient and impressive and naturally progressing type of intelligence at all. Therefore, an AGI that mimics humanity or even an idealized version of humanity is not necessarily the most important thing to hope for or aspire for. That's too human-centric of a view. It's for this reason also that I don't think those longevity technologies are going to take off, which is a different topic, but people who assume that technological progress will translate into human longevity have assumed that humans are the end game of evolution, and that is why there has been virtually no progress in that field in terms of a meaningful increase in the life expectancy of average people in advanced economies over the last 20 years. But back to AGI, no, it is not really possible with our current hardware. There are gimmicky demos that are possible, and many companies that claim AGI solutions and do get funding, and they're doing good work. The innovations they produce could be useful elsewhere, but we're not quite at AGI just yet. The limitations in hardware are cost, as well as scale and practicality. For example, there's a speed of light limit. The speed of light seems very fast when you consider that you can speak to anyone on the telephone or even a video conference on the other side of the world in real time, because the speed of light is fast enough that even a 12,000 mile distance is not necessarily something that causes too much of a delay in the communication. But that is not the case in computation and electronics. Even centimeters are too much of a distance between the processor, the memory, and the storage, and other computing elements when you have to do millions of calculations per second, billions of calculations per second. In the case of a supercomputer, trillions of floating point operations per second. Even 3 centimeter distances are far too much for the speed of light to make that many round trips within. And therefore that is one of the bottlenecks in all hardware for advanced computation and certainly for AGI. Until we get to some new types of circuit primitives, as we call it, so new types of circuit elements and advanced circuit design concepts, such as memristors or quantum computing or a whole host of other technologies, we will not have memory, storage, and processing all within one highly integrated unit, so that the distance between processing, memory, storage, and other components is not centimeters, but millimeters or even microns. Then you can have hardware that is fast enough for AGI because it matches the computational density and circuitry density of the human brain with all the neurons and dendrites. The second factor is energy. Now, the human brain takes up 20% of the energy of the human body, which is a much higher percentage than in other animals of similar size, including closely related animals like chimpanzees and orangutans. And I've spoken about that in other videos on this channel, such as this one up here in the upper right-hand corner called the sentient singularity, which many of you have seen if you're interested in this subject, unless you're new to this channel. But energy consumption is a bottleneck, not just for hardware cost, but also the operating cost of an AGI. If the electricity bill becomes too high, that is prohibitive. OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, are already facing this problem because each ChatGPT query that everyone makes costs them 15 to 20 cents of electricity. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if the number of ChatGPT queries every day is in the billions of queries, they're starting to rack up a pretty substantial energy bill. That is why they took in $10 billion of funding recently. You don't need $10 billion to hire more programmers to make the AI more advanced. A lot of that is infrastructure and energy costs. Which brings us to this slide. Now, anyone who is a longtime viewer of this channel has seen this slide many times, but this is why supercomputing speeds have been increasing at a much lower trajectory and are substantially behind the trend line because of energy costs, as well as the computational non-integration challenge that I mentioned a few minutes earlier. Both of those have to be overcome to create a reversion back to this trend line of computational density, which would also yield a hardware architecture that is suitable for what we could consider AGI. But as of today, that is not possible yet. Let me give you one other indicator. This is the share price of NVIDIA, which produces their NVIDIA Graphical Processing Unit, or GPU, which is one of the key processing components of all artificial intelligence projects today. It's also used in cryptocurrency mining and so forth, so it's still a very high demand product. And since this AI boom began in October, November 2022, just 6 months ago, since the release of ChatGPT, the share price of NVIDIA has risen by more than 3x. And in their recent earnings release just a few days ago, they rose another 25%. And a 3x rise is notable when they were already a $300 billion plus market cap company. And now, as you can see, they are almost $1 trillion in market cap. It is the latest tech company that is approaching the $1 trillion mark. Now, this is not an investment recommendation of any kind. I have been very consistent that I think average people should only be doing index investing, such as the NASDAQ 100, of which NVIDIA is a major portion, but not stock picking of individual stocks. You might catch something like this due to a complicated thesis, but your portfolio returns are still not going to be very good. Separate topic. But this indicates how much hardware is being used for artificial intelligence right now, and how there is a shortage of suitable hardware that is being backfilled with this NVIDIA GPU. Now, we're going to see the same complaints that we saw with things like framing lumber when housing construction was high, or the peak oil craze from 15 years ago when people said we're going to run out of oil and oil will become super expensive. Those people don't understand technology, because this high of a demand vector for the NVIDIA GPU simply means that someone somewhere is going to design something that is much lower cost and much greater skill, and the amount of computational power yielded by all the GPUs that NVIDIA sold to get this huge of an earnings result is going to be available for 1/100th or 1/1000th of the cost at some point when those technical challenges that I described have been overcome. But right now, since GPUs are the bottleneck and are being daisy-chained together through just brute force of more GPUs piled upon more GPUs in order to get more advanced AI applications underway, there's of course a huge demand for a revolution in AI hardware. And many private companies, some of which are not that small anymore, they're pretty big, are working on this. Which one wins is very hard to say, but this is the hottest area, both metaphorically and frankly physically, given how much heat energy is dissipated by these GPUs in the artificial intelligence ecosystem. And this will be interesting to watch, how someone somehow figures out this hardware problem. Thanks for watching.